Jim Mort Heiderscheit is a drummer born and raised in La Crosse. Jim tells us about his influences, the many bands he has played with, his experience touring, and what goes into planning Who Gives a Fest, a drive-in music festival. He also shares his passion for the nonprofit Punk Rock Saves Lives. I'm Amy, and he's Brent, and this is La Crosse Local.
My name is Jimmy Mort Heiderscheit, born in La Crosse, born and raised. I haven't really left, I guess. I mean, a year in Chicago, that was pretty miserable. Happy to be home. Started playing drums when I was 5. Motley Crue was the first band that really kind of turned me on to aggressive drumming, so to say. First song I ever played in public in front of people was Billy Ray Cyrus's Achy Breaky Heart. Yeesh. But never turned back from there. Just kept on learning new stuff and different styles and just love playing music.
I've seen you play in a variety of different bands, you know, some of them more of like the cover bands, some of them highly original music. So what are some of your musical influences?
Oh man, everything from the Police are a big influence. I love the Police, you know, 9 Inch Nails, Green Day, Blink-182, Coheed and Cambria is a massive influence on me. I love those guys. Coyote Kid, I just stumbled on them and I'm taking a lot away from those guys too. But all over the board, mostly rooted in punk, all the avenues of different rock music, metal. My heart and soul is really in punk rock music.
When you talk about Coheed and Cambria and Coyote Kid, you know, there's a little bit of like storytelling involved in that with their albums. More than just songs, it's more of a whole rock opera component to it. Exactly.
It's a whole, and I love bands that tell stories. That's one of my favorite things about music. And like I said, Coheed and Cambria, it follows an entire graphic novel universe. It's just awesome. You know, every album feeds into the next album, into the next story, and then they've only done one album that wasn't part of that kind of universe, and now they're back to that again, only an offshoot of the original story and characters. So it's just, I find that stuff to be really awesome.
So you've played drums in a number of bands in the area and some outside. Can you give us a rundown of those experiences?
Oh man. Yeah, I can try. So I would say the first real band I was in was a ska band called the Skamish. That was in high school, towards the end of high school. Played a lot regionally. From that band, it was an offshoot band of that, hardcore punk ska band called Straight to Your Brain. We did a lot regionally and then also did tour on the East Coast. After that, I believe was the Sweet Nothings. And we did a lot of stuff, played with some huge bands that went on to be huge. All American Rejects, Fall Out Boy, Motion City Soundtrack, Brand New. Probably one of the only bands around this area anyway that can say it. All American Rejects actually opened for our band, which is pretty cool. Played in a band called Project Me. That band actually did a full U.S. tour with a band from Madison called Saving Face. After that, played in a band that was on Capitol Records out of Rochester called the F-Ups. During demoing process for their next album that I was going to be on, the band actually broke up, formed a new band, moved to Vegas. Stars After the Storm was in that band for a long time. Did a lot regionally with those guys. 2012-ish, joined Monkey Wrench. Got to play Rockfest and Riverfest, Oktoberfest, June Dairy Days, all like the local fests, which was awesome. That band started doing original stuff, and that's kind of where that band's at right now, is slowly but surely chipping away at me some more new original material. About the same time I joined Monkey Wrench, I joined Homeland Conspiracy, and we are now working on our second and third albums. And we got to play Summerfest the same night as Tom Petty, which was sweet. So we've done a lot of really cool stuff, but again, looking forward to putting out that second, third album, and hopefully when things open back up, doing some more shows.
So when you're talking about your second and third albums for these different bands, what has that process been like dealing with COVID? What has your experience been with this process, or has allowed you some time to be creative? Or
Yeah, I think that's the one for bands. I mean, the one good thing about, the shutdowns and COVID is if you're able to be with your guys and write music, it's a really creative time. There's not much else going on, and you can also take inspiration from the things that are happening in the world or in your world and bring that into your music and create some pretty powerful stuff. We've just been on a ball rolling. It's just writing new material, and it's been really organic, but a very fluid process and new ideas every time we get together. As I said, we're finishing up the mixing on our second album, which will be released here hopefully soon. And we've already got half the third album, starting ready to be tracked. So as soon as we can start tracking that third album, I would say we have probably maybe four more songs to finish out that album. We'll have a third album already on the way.
So coming up, and I think in some ways, it kind of sprung out of COVID, you have Who Gives a Fest. It's a drive-in music festival. It's going to be at Pearl Street Brewery coming up. It also has a nonprofit component, which I find kind of interesting. It has the Sprout for Kids, which is local, but then also Punk Rock Save Lives. Can you tell us about the festival?
Yeah, so originally the Who Gives a Fest idea just kind of sprung from like a lot of these, I don't want to say little bands, but the little guy that doesn't maybe get the chance to play all the big festivals. Fine, we'll do it ourselves. We'll throw our own festival and get everyone a shot at playing a kind of a bigger crowd maybe than we're accustomed to, because a lot of the original local bands, there's not always that I'm going to go watch a bunch of songs that I know. Not always get the same opportunities. So that's how it originally started. And then COVID, and how can we do some good, out of this situation too, so we can get our musicians back to work safely and stage people back to work safely and get people some music therapy at the same time. And also raise some money, like I said, for, Sprout Foundation, giving money back to La Crosse area bar and restaurants that have been affected by the shutdown. And Punk Rock Saves Lives is a group that's been very close to me for a long time. They do so much good work in the world. Their take on punk, a lot of people are like, oh, punk, scary, anarchists and whatnot and whatever. But they actually, their kind of credo, whatever you want to call it, is punk is positivity, unity, nurture, and kindness. So kind of taken from the Joe Strummer vein of punk of, do the most good you can. So we really want to help those guys out too. They do so many good things in the world. I jumped at the chance to be able to help them out too.
And what do you think people can expect when they come to this show? I know I've went to Driftus Music Gardens to check out Greg Hall and the Wrecking Ball. I just didn't really compare, what to expect, but then I realized it was basically just tailgating, only listening to music. That's
really it. It's just a big tailgate party. I know there's a certain portion of crowd that's, I just want to be crammed with a bunch of people and that feed off that energy. Well, not exactly the safest thing right now, but if, hey, we can get people out to see some bands, and I think the Who Gives a Fest has something for everyone. There's really, aside from like a classical or jazz band, there's good old-fashioned rock and roll, there's bluegrass, there's country, there's, it's just some alt rock and metal and punk. There's just kind of everything. And I just think it's going to be a lot of fun, for people to get out, be with some friends, be safe, and watch some awesome live music.
So what's next for you? What's coming up? Besides the festival, what's personally on your agenda?
I don't know, man. It's hopefully more music, maybe a little bit of travel. Who knows once that's safe again. But I would love to continue to kind of help out, like I said, the little guy, the smaller bands, help developing artists in the area, give them shots at playing some gigs. And I just like to continue bringing music to the area and exposing people to new bands and something maybe they hadn't heard before.
So where can people find out more about the festival and potentially find out more about you and your music?
I mean, no one really wants to know about me. I'm pretty boring, but they can find me on Facebook. Sounds super pretentious and whatnot, but I've got a fan page, and that's Mort on Facebook, MORT. It's just the easiest way for me to keep any events that I'm doing. So at one time, I was in 4 bands at a time, so I could just throw my schedule up and, hey, if you want to come check things out, here it is. That's probably the easiest way. Who Gives a Fest, if you just search that on Facebook. If you go to Pearl Street Brewery's app, the tickets are available for the fest there, and I believe it's on the Pearl Street Brewery website too.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you would like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Locals. Subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We thank you for it.